Hello, this is Jacob Briggs, and I am here to go over the Project 3 stuff. So first, Unity events and object pooling I have in one project, so I'll go over them both together. I put them in the tank game. First, I'll just go over a quick little thing for the Unity event. I just set up a Unity event player shoot down here. It will invoke whatever is passed into it. And here it will grab the listener for the pawn's shoot function. And it doesn't seem like much, but right here I had like a little idea. By using this Unity event to just shoot whatever is on the player, it can eventually lead to power-ups that act like a whole different gun, like a classic arcade survival game. So like you could pick it up and then suddenly instead of just shooting one bullet, you're shooting like a machine gun. Um, and then it goes away, and then you're back to just shooting your um, regular gun. So let's start this up though, so we can see that it does in fact shoot when I push the spacebar. It still shoots bullets. And now over here, you can see all these spheres because I also set up an object pool manager. Um, so what this does is on awake, it creates an instance of the object pool manager and makes sure that there's only one. Um, and then down here in a knit pool, it goes through each number that we want and it creates uh, one of them. So right now I have it set to 100. So it goes through and it creates 100 and then it leaves that function and then we call it here in the start function. Um, so we can see all of those here. And now to handle that, we're doing it with moving it. Well, first, I think it's in tank shooter. We made a function called getObject, and it goes to our pool and it finds the first one that's inactive. And it's going to take the positions from where it's going to be shot. So it goes into a for each and it searches for an inactive one. And then it sets values for where it's going to be shot from, and because it's going to be different for each tank. And then down here we set it active so it can be actually shot. And then instead of instantiating, we use the get object to grab one at the tank's position and rotation. And then now in bullet data, instead of destroying it after its lifespan, we set up a coroutine to um, set it active after the lifespan is over, and then we call that coroutine in the start function. And then in Damager, when it hits an object, instead of destroying it when it hits something, we just set it back to false. Um, so we can see, let's see if I can get a real long shot. I'm shooting it, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes. Oh no. Some of them disappear. Er, I had some of them not disappear yesterday. Yeah, see? Okay. So some of them like to disappear, and some of them don't. And it's kind of weird. Um, but the majority of them do disappear. And we can see that they hit something, and it goes away. And it can still do damage. So yeah, those are my object pools. Um, and just to talk about it, object pool is pretty much instead of creating each and everything that we're going to need for a game when we need it, we can just store a bunch of it and just store a bunch of it in our memory so that we don't have to do it while the game is going. Create them. We can create it before the game starts. and make it easier for the game to run instead of having to spawn in all these bullets like a game like, Halo. Um, all these people are shooting each other. It's possible that all those bullets spawning in could slow it down a lot. So spawning in all that stuff at the beginning can help cut down on certain like things that might slow everything down. And then the Unity events are so that we can make something and then uh, not necessarily have it be set to one thing. So we could change what action is used in the pawn.shooter.shoot. It could be the regular one, like I said, add power-ups. I can change the tanks to shoot like a machine gun. Um, but yeah, that's this project. Let me close out of there. So next we have everything else in this one. Let me just pull up my notes so I remember exactly what everything I need to talk about. So I'll go over the link stuff first because it's easier to go over. So I set up an item type enum so that the items that I create could have a certain type to be found. Um, and then inventory item, it takes the item type and it also holds an ID. I don't really need this right now, but it was something that I thought would help me when I ran into an issue. I'll talk about that. A name and then a level. Um, so here I create 4 keys, because that's what I use for a later example for something. And I create them here and I create them down here so that I can pass them into the same lists and make sure that they're the same. And then we create our inventory list and create a list to hold of all of the puzzle unlock keys. And here we just set the keys and we add them to the puzzle keys, and then we add 3 of the 4 to inventory, and then we add 3 other items to our inventory. Um, and then these are just uh, my update so I can show off the functions. So filter for collectibles is my filtering example. Um, so filtering of data. Uh, this function filters to the inventory and will only show off our collectibles. So we make a list to store them and then show them off, and we use that by doing from item in our inventory list, where the item type equals item type.collectible, and then sends that to our list. And then here we display the info in the console to show that they've been found. So let me start this, and it's P for collectible. Yeah, it's P for collectible. So let me press P, and then we can see that we have a piece of mirror, it's a collectible, and a song lyrics notebook, which is a collectible. And if we come back here, we can see that piece of mirror, collectible, item level 0, songs lyric notebook, item type collectible, item level 0. So we can see that we are getting those. And we can also see that the keys and the puzzle item aren't showing up. And then down here we have a sort by level, and this function goes through and orders the keys in our inventory by the level in which of the puzzle that they unlock. So my idea was we could separate the puzzles. The lower level puzzles you can unlock at a level 1 key, but then there's other puzzles you can unlock at a level 2 key and above. Um, so we grab our puzzle unlocks from item and inventory. We order by the item level, but only the puzzle unlocks. And then we do the same thing with and it's L for this one. So let's clear and press L. And now we can see that we have puzzle 1 key, a puzzle 2 key, and a puzzle 3 key, and it's a 1, a 1, and a 2. And then next we have check for keys, and this function will compare all puzzle keys in our inventory and find out which keys we do not already hold. So if we come back up here, we can see that we have 4 keys in puzzle keys and only 3 keys in our inventory. So what this does is it sets up a new list not held, and it goes through and it looks at all puzzle keys except for the ones in inventory, and it puts them into there. This is where I was running into the issue where I had to create these because I was adding 2 different key ones to each one, and it didn't recognize that they were the same thing. So that's why that happens. So, and then this is K. So let me clear this and then press K, and you can see that only puzzle 4 key shows up when we do accept. So I could use this to check. What I was thinking with the keys is that you can do the puzzles out of order depending on what key you get from completing a puzzle. And this could be used to find out, hey, they have these keys, don't drop them a key for a puzzle they already completed. That would be dumb. Um, so yeah, those are the Link examples. I really, really, really like Link. Let me just say that. It's very helpful. It's very cool. Oh, but now we get to the independency injection, or dependency injection, which for this I looked at the ADIC, another dependency injection container for Unity and beyond. Um, this was an experience, let me just say that. So with ADIC, you want to make a game root, and this will kind of be it's kind of like a game manager, but for parts of the dependency injection. Um, so in here, I created a trigger, dialog trigger, which I don't think is actually called anymore. This was for an older, yeah, it was for an older thing. So I think I actually need that, but I'll just leave it there for right now. Because there was a lot of trial and error trying to figure out everything for this. So in here we have to make the game root take from context root. And then in here we have to have a setup containers. So what we do is you have to add a container of a certain type. We can go through here too. The documentation. So it's just where you set up basic stuff for the containers, anything that needs to grab something, and then a init is a function that it has it. Just in case you want to do any special things when the game starts, you put it here, but if not, then you can just leave it empty. So in here, this is for the commands. So what I did for this is I made the little dialog button in the game take from dependency injection. So it's not just a click on it and it runs the dialog function like it used to. So here you grab or you take a commander container extension, which is like this thing or it's a register command. So it grabs a command from another script, but you don't have to specify which one. And then you can also bind the classes. This one's just bound to itself. Um, I didn't really have to mess with that a whole bunch. So if we grab our command from Dialog Manager. But which one do we grab from Dialog Manager? We grab our execute because we have to take this now from .command. So down here we have to set a type for a command, and the singleton one means that there will be only one of these running at once, so we can use the singleton. You need to specify which one it is. I think there's like 2 types. If I scroll down to, that's funny. Commands. No. Oh, because I'm on the wrong page. Whoops. Using commands. Okay. So we have to take from the ADIC command, and execute will be our function that we can grab from it. We don't need anything in there um, to necessarily run it. So there's a pool size function and there's a singleton function. Um, so this could also be used, I think, for object pooling pretty easy if you wanted to stick stuff onto those, but I only needed one of these, so I made the singleton one. And so we already talked about registering them, so we'll come down here. I have all of these injected because they're dependencies that are needed to run the dialog that will be passed in later. And you can't set them up here in the parameters or in the little thing because you have to assign them a spot down here. So you have to inject them in so it knows it needs them and then call them down here and put them in the parameters in a certain order so that when you go to call the function, you can put those parameters in. And then down here just runs the same stuff for it. And that means the only thing to look at is dialog trigger. So what this does, well, first of all, the new thing here is it grabs our button command, which is a special thing with the command where you can use it much easier with a UI button. There's other ways to do it that aren't button command, but this makes it easier to find the command on the button list. So if I were to come over here to the canvas, the dialog trigger, and I scroll down, it makes it easier to find dispatch command here. So now and then also, there's a thing where you have to choose the namespace that it's under. I didn't set any namespaces for these. And then you can choose the command that you want, which is dialog manager. And then it'll dispatch the command from dialog manager here. And so down here in dispatch command, we say this button command dispatch command, and then we put in our dependencies. So we pass it what it needs, and that's it. We can come back here, and we can push the button, and then we can see that the dialog pops up, and it goes through it just fine. I can call it again all I want. Can talk to Millie all I want because the thing's being called. So, I'm sure, well, I'm going to be talking about this more in the presentation, but just a quick overview of my thoughts. Dependency injection was really complicated to get into, but once I understood what I was doing, it became a lot easier to do that one part until I hit another roadblock. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at more. And I definitely would try and mess around with another dependency injector framework to see if I can find one that's more up to date, maybe a little more user friendly. Because this one there was a lot of holes in the documentation. There was a lot that I had to read between the lines and kind of guess around to see if it would work. And then I think that's partially due to it being discontinued now. So it's not being updated, they're not working on it anymore. But overall, once I understood a part, I was able to do that part pretty easy. Um, but there was definitely a lot that was left up to me to try and guess and figure out. But that is actually it. Went over Unity event, object pooling, dependency injector, filter, a sort, and then an accept. So yeah, thank you.